The good news is we're all in this together. And when we see we're together, we can work things out. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey and the amazing Tom Fennell.
Amazing.
And this is Energy Week, as I just said. This is actually our 270th episode of Energy
Yeah,
Week.
you're starting to put that into the headline.
I
there.
started putting it in because I wanted to keep track. I think it's nice to know. That's not 270 weeks we've done it. It's 270 shows because we've had specials.
A couple of specials, so
yeah.
that's cheating.
It's not cheating. It's counting the number of shows. Anyway, the Energy Week show is based on the news that I find every day when I go on looking for news on energy and on climate change, which I do for my blog, which is called geoharvey.com, GeoHarvey.
So this is the best of the blog.
Yeah. Every day I find about 10 or 15 news items, and I put the ones that I do a 50 or 55 word synopsis on each one, provide a link to the original. About half of them I provide photographs, which is where the pictures, almost all of the pictures for this show come from, the original articles. And put those up on the blog, and I try to keep track of what day it is when we're talking about these things. The first item.
Well, that's important.
Yeah, the first item that we have here is from June 28th, and if you go to the blog geoharvey.com, you can click on the calendar. You'd have to go back to a previous month to get to June 28th, but you can do that. There's a little back arrow there, and you can look through the June 28th news and find the article.
Why would you even care?
About what?
going to the article.
Well, you always say this because the articles sometimes are really
interesting articles.
In depth.
And we could spend the whole show here sometimes talking on just one article.
This first one is an example. It's not as the article itself doesn't go into the depth that it could. I mean, this is something you could write a book about. But it does tell some.
It has been. Well, we got a picture coming up here.
Oh, we do. There we go. There's our first picture, and this is for an article from Nova Next.
In case you haven't figured it out, those are wind turbines. It's a nice picture, though. It's a sunset.
Yeah.
And the title here is, "Can wind turbines make you sick?" Question mark. Whether the sound, audible or inaudible, actually impacts human health remains a deeply contested issue. Scientific consensus suggests that it is not. 25 peer-reviewed studies looking at a range of health effects found that living near wind turbines does not pose a risk on human health. Well, it appears to be what they call a nocebo effect.
Yes.
Which is the exact opposite of a placebo.
Yeah.
If a placebo can help your health, a nocebo can hurt your health.
Yeah.
And it's really based not on the phenomenon itself, but rather your attitude toward it, your belief about it.
Right.
If you think that stepping in puddles is going to cause you to get sick, and you step in puddles, you're going to get sick.
Yeah, and the placebo is something which is used in medicine, particularly in testing, where they will provide patients with a pill that has usually what they give them is milk sugar.
Yeah.
And
completely neutral pill.
Yeah.
And sometimes it helps.
And sometimes it helps if they say
and
this.
I've heard it said it's mind over matter, but sometimes these things work with horses.
Yes.
How do you get the horse to believe?
Wow. But on the other hand, if you tell a person this is going to make you sick and you give it to them, then the person can get sick.
Well, that's exactly what they're talking about.
So you could tell a group of people, this pill will make you feel better, and a separate group of people, this pill will make you sick, and in every case the pill has no effect on them whatever, and you would expect that the people...
Some of them are going to get sick.
The people who are told they're going to get sick might get sick. The people who are told that they're going to get feel better might feel better. In the case of wind turbines, I have seen studies that show that there is an enormous reduction in medical expenses that has been calculated as a result of our installation of wind turbines. It has nothing directly to do with the wind turbines. What it has to do with is the fact that as you put in wind turbines, you're reducing the amount of carbon-based fuels that are being consumed, which means you're getting rid of a lot of air pollution. And the amount of money that's been saved from installing wind turbines in the United States is in the billions of dollars.
Interesting.
Yeah.
From the article, it said from 2011 to 2016, wind electricity rose from 120 billion to 226 billion kilowatt hours in the United States.
Yeah.
A rise that has not produced an increase in evidence of adverse health outcomes.
Right.
And again from the article, it's natural to look for causes, and something that seems to be new in the environment is a natural conclusion to draw.
Right.
But so far the evidence doesn't support a causal association.
Right. And you know, it's interesting because we've heard of the Brattleboro Foundation, which was one of the early foundations in Australia where they were trying to prevent wind turbines from being installed. And what they did was they went into the village of Brattleboro and said they're going to put in a huge wind farm here. We'll help you stop it. Well, they didn't help stop it, but they named the foundation the Brattleboro Foundation, and they were going all over Australia trying to prevent wind turbines from being installed, and ultimately the people in Brattleboro sued them.
Did they really?
They said, you're using our name. We don't want you to do that. You don't represent us. So anyway,
well,
we should
talking about Australia, and they're ahead of us, at least in the use of turbines. We still have more than they do. But they started putting in turbines long before we did.
Yeah.
And I guess there's a quote from an Australian disc jockey.
Yes.
And it said that, when I forget this quote now, about wind turbines making you sick.
The one about the...
Oh, this is caused by a virus.
Yes.
And the virus is spread by word of mouth.
Yes, there you go. We should move on.
Duh!
Our next item is from Solar Power World.
Renewables account for 20% of domestic electrical generation in the first 4 months of 2018. We're going to look back on that as a small number.
Yeah. Renewable energy sources accounted for more than 1/5, and the actual number given was 20.05% of net domestic electric generation during the first third of 2018, according to a Sunday campaign analysis of data released by the U.S. Energy Information Administration. And solar power alone is now providing 2.07% of the nation's electric production. And I'm going to object to that number.
Why is that?
Well, because it comes from the DOE, and the DOE tell you right up front.
They're living in the past.
Yeah, they tell you right up front. We know these numbers are wrong. You know, what they're telling us is it is not solar power alone is providing 2.07%, but that solar power that they count is 2.07%. And in the past, they wouldn't count it if it was an installation below a megawatt or 5 megawatts, depending on the installation. You know, this is something that we've mentioned many times.
According to this article, solar power alone is providing 2% of the nation's electrical production.
Yeah.
It's more than that. We both know that.
Yes, and it's probably more like 3%.
Wind accounted for 8%.
Yes.
Okay. Slightly exceeding that produced by hydro, which is almost 8%.
Almost 8%.
Okay. Nuclear provided 20.27%.
Which is a little high for nuclear. And
well, it's going down.
It is going down. As a matter of fact,
we'll be talking about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's move along.
Well, let's move along. We have a new picture.
Another picture.
And this is, you know.
Come on, picture.
Argumentative computers. All right, and this is from PV Magazine USA.
Solar bond pays for 12 solar installations with no taxpayer cost.
I think this is very cool. The city of Albuquerque is installing 12 solar power systems using a bond that will be paid back with electricity savings. Along with this, the local police and fire facilities are increasing their resilience with on-site energy generation. Along the way, the city moves closer to a 25% renewable electricity, and local jobs are being created. And what this tells me is, you know, maybe we should even have a new kind of bond. And not just for renewable energy, but for anything that can be paid off in savings.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean,
that makes sense. Because basically that's what they're doing. They're generating electricity, selling the electricity to pay off the bond.
Right.
Duh.
Duh. So the taxpayer is paying no more. The taxpayer is ultimately going to be paying less.
It's not costing the taxpayer anything at all.
Yeah, it has no net effect on the budget, and it has a paper effect on debt, but that effect is going to be going away as the debt is paid off, which doesn't cost anybody anything out of pocket.
Well, if you like aerial pictures, this is a good article.
Yes, and this particular picture that we're looking at here is a picture of a parking lot. It's a parking lot. Yeah. It's a parking lot, and all those cars.
You can see the cars underneath it
are being shaded. And you know, it's interesting because you've got a bunch of different.
In the city of Albuquerque, you got to shade cars.
Yeah, there are a number of different ways that you can get solar power that doesn't involve putting up solar panels in utility scale fields, agricultural, cut down forests, what have you. They can go up on people's rooftops or in people's backyards in small installations. They can go up over like this, over parking lots.
Well, what this article says, that everything they're talking about is on something municipally owned.
Yes.
Okay. 7 fire stations.
Yes.
Okay. The police academy.
Yes.
The police forensics lab. The golf course, or a golf course, a community center, and a main library.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at downtown Brattleboro, there's flat roofs all over the place.
But, you know, I talked to Jason Cooper about this.
Yeah.
And what he said was, you can't put solar power on all those rooftops. And the reason is because the rooftops they're not strong enough. They're not strong enough to take the load that you have to put up there to ballast the solar panels.
That's always a problem.
Yeah.
That's always a problem.
But the thing that I was getting at, Tom, is the US DOE did calculations of how much solar could be installed on rooftops, on over sidewalks, above parking lots, wherever. If you installed all of the solar power you could get from all of those sources that are rooftop, cities, so what have you, the state of Vermont would be able to get 55% of its current electric demand met by those.
For the whole state?
For the whole state.
Wow.
Now, that's a lot.
It is.
But it's not enough that we could rely on that alone.
Well, there's another downside about flat roofs.
Yes.
They're notoriously leaky.
Yes.
And owning a flat roof and trying to get it not leaking can be a full-time job for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And once you've done it, you don't want to screw with that at all.
Yes. I actually owned a house once that had a flat roof.
And it leaked.
And the person who had it before me redid the entire roof. It was amazing how well that was done. And even though it was beautifully done, the house
still leaked.
At one point, we
had a house with a leaky roof. It wasn't even flat.
Yeah.
But I remember it would be raining and my mother would be running around the house with pails to catch the drips from the roof.
I remember having that happen when I was a kid too. It's those old houses. Yeah. Okay, so we should move on.
Yeah, we got another picture here.
This computer keeps telling me that it's got to do something.
Got another picture.
And I've got 2 computers, and they're both complaining. Okay, so we've got an item coming up from Tree Hugger.
Yeah.
And this
Can you get the picture?
That picture.
There we go.
There you go. Isn't that a beautiful picture?
That's nice.
Yeah.
Oregon solar apiary combines energy production with honey. And we've talked somewhat about this before. I mean, it's a double income stream for a farmer.
Yeah. In Oregon, Eagle Point Solar Farm has a solar apiary that has agriculture with PVs. The owners believe the installation is the largest of its kind in the country. A utility-scale solar is sited with 48 beehives covering 48 acres of land and providing pollination services to surrounding farms while also producing electricity for the local grid.
Well, this is inevitable. It's just too logical.
It's stunning. It's so beautiful, though, because what they're doing is they put in a utility scale 41 acres. That's fairly big.
That's these guys. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is big.
And they put in a utility scale solar farm, and then under the solar panels they have
planting
pollinators.
Flowers.
Yeah, pollinators are growing, and those pollinators provide pollen for beehives that they have put in, and those bees and those beehives don't just stay on those 41 acres.
Oh no, they like to roam.
They go all over the place. So they're benefiting. A lot of people gaining.
Yep,
every farm around is gaining because these pollinators are around. And
well, as we've talked about on the show, there's some agricultural products you can grow in shade.
Yes.
That actually grow better in shade.
Yes.
Use less water.
Yes.
Herbs seems to be one thing. Corn and cotton aren't.
Yes. Well, corn and, when I was a kid, I spent a lot of my grade school years in Illinois, and we were in the middle of farm country, and the teachers would talk with us about farming problems, and the thing that we learned was that there were 3 crops. They were corn, cotton, and tobacco that were really, really destructive to the soil.
They are.
And
at least the way they're grown.
Yeah, the way they're grown. And so we talked, when I was in like 3rd grade, about peanuts and how you could alternate crops so that the peanuts would be able to refresh the soil.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that's being done by some.
It's being done.
But you still got too many monocrop farmers, and they rely on nothing but artificial fertilizers.
Yes. Okay.
Let's move along here.
We are up to Friday, June 29th.
This is an interesting one.
This is from ET
Nuclear
Energy World.
and coal bailout worth any cost to keep America free, says the U.S. Energy Chief.
Oh,
I'd like to
man.
know what he means by that.
Energy Secretary Rick Perry told reporters that bailing out struggling coal and nuclear power plants is as important to national security as keeping a strong military.
Yeah, right.
This is the Donald Trump administration. You cannot put a dollar value on the cost to keep America free, he said. And when asked about the cost of a potential bailout, he said he didn't know. Now, it reminds me of conservatives when I was in college making fun of liberals who would say things like, well, if it saves a single life, it's worth putting this money in, And they would say, no, you can't do that. What if it costs $1 trillion to save one life? You've got to, you've got to have some kind of values there. Okay. There was an additional problem that I have with this, though, and that is if you look at the reports that came a couple of years ago from NASA and from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, the reports that they said was that there were some really terrible problems that we have that are threats to our energy security. One of them is a solar storm, another one is a terrorist attack. And
yeah,
what are the things that are vulnerable? The transmission lines and nuclear power plants.
Absolutely.
So how do you address that problem? Well, you can harden all of that stuff at huge expense, or you can use distributed electricity that comes from rooftop solar and wind farms.
Well, that's happening already, and it's happening for economic reasons.
Yes, it is. Yep.
According to this article, this sort of sums it up. Aging, this is reality, okay, despite keeping us free. This is real. Aging coal and nuclear facilities have been shuttering at a rapid pace in recent years.
Yeah.
pushed by cheaper natural gas as well as renewable energy sources.
Yes.
Bingo. Money talks.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but you know, this whole thing of security, as far as I'm concerned, is a smokescreen for keeping coal plants open. And
Well, in this particular case, that's exactly what it is.
and the oil companies, because the oil companies know that they're next to be hit.
It's not science; it's ideology.
Yeah,
Well, we got to move on here. We got a
we
nice
do
picture
indeed.
of,
We have an item from Clean Technica,
We got a nice picture of a car.
a nice picture of a nice clean factory in Shenzhen.
It is, isn't it? You could eat off the floor there.
Yeah.
BYD releases more than 400 technologies on an open platform at its Dreams Gala.
Yeah, build your dreams.
Well, that's what BYD stands for.
I think this is so interesting that we've got a company in China that has an acronym BYD, which means Build Your Dreams. English acronym for this company in China. But interestingly enough, BYD is a new company that was founded by a guy. And when you think about this guy, he's a lot like Elon Musk.
I was just thinking about Tesla, yeah.
Yeah. BYD announced that it's releasing the technology for 341 sensors and 66 controllers for its DieLink system on an open platform to encourage other companies to adopt a standard platform for developing EVs, electric vehicles.
Well, this DieLink system,
BYD's DieLink intelligent network system is a critical part of its E-platform, the foundation of its EV technology. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, what this DieLink system is all the sensors on a vehicle.
Yeah.
Including the infotainment system, heating, ventilating, air conditioning, vehicle lighting systems. They're all in this module.
Right.
And these guys are making that module available to other manufacturers.
So they can manufacture their own without having to pay royalties.
I mean, they got a vested interest here. But
they have a vested interest.
I think what they're doing is a good idea.
Yeah.
Didn't Musk do something like that recently?
Musk did exactly the same thing a year or two ago. He released, I don't know how many
patents, didn't he?
Yeah, patents. And this fellow, I forget his name, who owns BYD. This is a company that was started up by a guy, just like Tesla was started up by a guy. You know. Okay, this is how people can build their Chinese dream. While they're building an American dream, they just happen to be doing it in China.
We've talked about them before in the way they build buses. BYD builds buses too.
BYD
They're growing pretty big.
BYD probably builds more electric buses in 1 week than the United States has.
Yeah.
You know, because the Chinese
they got thousands of them. We have 30, 40.
we have about 1,000 electric buses in this country.
They have what, 10,000?
In China, they have about 3 million.
3 million electric buses.
3 million, is that right? No, it's 300,000.
I'll
300,000.
I'll buy 300,000.
Yeah, 300,000. And I don't know what portion of those were made by BYD, but they were almost all made in the last 3 years.
Uh-huh.
This is a huge ramping up of technology. And the amount of money that's being made on this, because they're selling these buses all over the world. The amount of money that's being made, we're talking about a market here that is many tens of billions of dollars a year, and the United States isn't even in it because we don't manufacture electric buses. And this is one of the things that's wrong with the idea of a free market.
Well, there's no such thing as a free market.
Yes, that's right.
Be nice if there were, but
we have a free market, so-called,
free to manipulate.
Happens to be under the control. How do you have a free market that's under the control of something? It's under the control of the people who have a lot of money, who have a vested interest in making sure that the market doesn't change. Mm-hmm. They want to make sure that their business plan, as it currently sits, succeeds. You know, if you think about David and Charles Koch, for example, Koch Industries, they're kind of under attack by renewable energy. And do they, at the age of
what to do about
75 or whatever, want to come up with a new business plan? Really? Yeah. It would be difficult for them to retire because Koch Industries is not publicly traded, so they just can't sell off stock. So honestly, I think they've painted themselves into a corner.
Remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Well, let's move along here to something a little more local.
Yep, Hydro-Quebec. This is from Clean Technica.
Hydro-Quebec to supply the U.S. with enough renewable energy to power 3 million electrical vehicles.
Which is more than we've got. Hydro-Quebec and Central Maine Power Company jointly announced the successful conclusion of a contract negotiations with Massachusetts electric distribution companies for the New England Clean Energy Connect 100% hydropower project. The deal will provide enough renewable electricity to power over 3 million electric vehicles.
Well, we've been talking about this in one form or another for months.
Yeah, at least.
And basically what it amounts to is Hydro-Quebec has a lot of electricity.
Yes.
New England has a lot of people who want electricity,
yes,
particularly in Boston.
Yes.
So what we've been talking about here is how to get that electricity from there to there.
Right, and
some of it's going down Lake Champlain, some of it's going through Maine like this is.
Some of it's going offshore.
Well, the one going through Maine is partly offshore.
Yeah.
Yep. So they're getting it down there, and it's going to continue.
Yeah. The alternative to this is to bring in more natural gas.
Well, we're going to run out of that.
Natural gas, you know.
They're not going to run out of hydro in Quebec.
You hope.
Well, yeah, the climate could change drastically.
But by the time that happens, we should have the other renewable energy forms installed that will take care of everything. And that's one of the things about renewable energy is that there are many, many technologies involved here, and they cover for each other.
Well, for what it's worth, 3 million vehicles at 12,000 miles a year use 9 billion, is it billion? Yeah, it's billion, kilowatt hours per year.
Yeah.
And that's where they're getting the headline from. Right now, there are currently 863,000 electrical vehicles in the United States.
Right.
According to this article.
Okay.
I think they're wrong by 3.
Our next item is from CNN, and it's from Saturday, June 30th. And we have a picture here, and again, the computer is objecting. This computer is being a problem for me. It's putting up little signs.
Well, I got the picture up there anyway.
You have the picture. Unfortunately, the computer won't tell me where the cursor is. There we go. It wants to go to a different picture. There we go. Okay.
This is an interesting title.
Yes, this is from CNN.
Air pollution linked to 3.2 million new diabetes cases in 1 year.
We knew
you wouldn't have figured that.
Yeah, we knew about lung problems and heart problems. Levels of air pollution well below what is considered safe by the US EPA and the World Health Organization are causing an increased risk of diabetes worldwide, a study published in Lancet Planetary Health said. In 2016, air pollution contributed to 3.2 million new diabetes cases worldwide. It is linked to 150,000 new cases per year in the US. And this is stuff that was never factored into the calculations.
Who'd have thunk?
The external costs of fossil fuels.
Well, this came from CNN, and they usually do a pretty good job.
Yep.
And their website has a nice little 1-minute video.
Yep.
1.02 or something like that minutes. How deadly is air pollution?
Yes.
And they're talking about in this article a small particle air pollution.
Right.
Which is 1/30th the thickness of a human hair.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's linked to increased risk of many chronic diseases, such as diabetes, which increases at air pollution levels well below standards set by the EPA.
Another reason not to smoke, maybe.
Yeah.
Could be. And Lancet Planetary Health is going to be Lancet, which is a British health medical journal. It's a medical journal.
Yeah, okay.
It's like the Journal of the American Medical Association. It's very, very well known.
It's a classy magazine.
Yes. Okay, we are up to an article from Vermont Biz.
We are that.
Yes.
Vermont utility owner joins international renewable gas effort.
3 utilities announced a collaboration aimed to advance the research and development of renewable natural gas, including such technologies as power to gas, which uses renewable power to synthesize fuel. One of the utilities, Erengir, formerly Gas Metro, is the parent company of Vermont Gas Systems and Green Mountain Power.
Well, what they're doing here is they're focusing on research, development, public policy, and outreach.
Yes.
But they got a particular thing that they want to work on, power to gas.
Yes.
Okay, they got a surplus of power. They want to make gas, and they can store the gas.
Yeah.
Okay, power to gas uses otherwise wasted wind and solar power, in this particular case, hydropower.
Yes.
To create renewable natural gas which can be stored and transported.
And used in current equipment to heat.
They're not
to
talking
cook.
about new technology really here. Everything
Not
exists.
not for the use of the gas. The thing that really doesn't exist is the infrastructure to do it, but the knowledge, the science is all there.
Oh yeah.
So what they're trying to do is figure out. This is almost like cherry picking. They're trying to get the specific elements of the whole thing together that they want to use for their.
Well, they're using many different approaches.
Yes, that's true.
You know, basically, and one of the things is, I got a little surplus electricity. I'm going to make gas out of it,
yes.
and I can save that gas.
Yes, and the gas can be made from carbon dioxide and water,
which is basically what they are making it from. Yeah, basically.
Okay, our next item is from Clean Technica.
This is a good one here. Coal power plants retiring quickly during the Trump administration.
This is Donald Trump's war on coal, folks. Yeah, the U.S. Energy Information Administration summarized the true coal power trends very concisely, saying, quote, at least 25 gigawatts of
That's
coal.
a lot.
That's a lot. Of coal-fired capacity will retire within the next 3 years, this is 2018 to 2020, according to planned retirements reported to the EIA. And this is just planned retirements.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to close a plant that they haven't planned closing, they haven't reported it yet. It also pointed out that natural gas now produces more power than coal. Well, the amount of electricity being produced by coal is going down.
Absolutely.
Down. It's like down to 24% of our electricity. Meanwhile, renewables are going upwards from 20%. Coal is almost at a point where it's being eclipsed by renewables.
I was reading about, it's in a different article about a coal mine out west.
Yeah.
And originally they built this coal mine for transportation fuel for railroads.
Yes.
And then the railroads went to diesel.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, they practically had to close the mine. So then somebody built a power plant there.
Yes.
And now they're out of coal.
Huh.
So they're trying to figure out what to do. And they're going to put in solar.
Yes.
Duh. It's a large mine. I mean, it's going to be a lot of solar. We'll talk about it when we get to it.
Yeah. Maybe we should take that picture down, Tom.
That might be a good idea.
Yeah. We are up to Sunday, July 1st. And this item is from BBC News.
We got an image here.
Do we?
Yeah, the Swansea Bay tidal lagoon.
I got it out of order,
Bingo.
out of sequence. Sorry about
There we
that, but
go.
thank you, Tom.
I recognize this picture. I've seen it before.
Have you? I don't
Well, on
think
this show, we've talked about Swansea Bay. Oh,
We've
yeah.
talked a lot about Swansea Bay.
Well,
I don't remember.
That's Swansea Bay.
Yeah, I don't remember ever seeing the picture. That, by the way, is a rendering. It's the thing you're seeing is a piece of
a real
artwork.
picture because that's not built yet.
And the people on the shore there are all racing bicycles, and I'll bet you they're going to beat those boats. But what do you have for a title?
The Swansea Bay tidal lagoon can still be built, council leader says.
The Swansea Tidal Lagoon Energy Project could go ahead without UK government backing. The Welsh government said it did not have the resources to build the project, but a Swansea council leader told BBC Sunday Politics Wales it would be viable under different ways of paying for it and selling the energy.
Well, there's a back story here. First of all, this lagoon was large.
Yes.
So it was going to fill up with the tide.
Yep.
use the water in there to generate power.
Yep.
As the tide went out.
Yep.
The tide comes back in, tide goes out 4 times a day.
Yes.
And it was a pretty big damn lagoon.
Yes.
And according to this article, I didn't know this, the aim was to lead to a fleet of larger lagoons.
Yes.
In Cardiff, Newport, Bridgewater, Colwyn, and off the coast of Cumbria. I don't even know where these places are.
Well, I've actually been in a few of them.
Well, you've been in England. I've only changed planes in England. I didn't see much of it.
Which is, like my trip to Ireland, which was in the plane looking down. I've seen Ireland, but I haven't
it's interesting
walked
here
around it.
because the government says they can't afford it, so now they're looking for other ways to pay for it.
They can afford Hinkley C, which
Yeah,
costs
which is ridiculous.
15 times as much.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
It
but
is.
There's politics involved.
Yes, there is.
And Wales doesn't have quite the power that London does.
Yeah, well, there are reasons behind that, too.
I'm sure there are. Well, let's move along here.
Okay, and our next item is from The Guardian.
I guess it is. India's huge solar ambitions could push coal further in the shade.
India says it intends to launch a tender for 100 gigawatts of solar power. 100 gigawatts of solar power?
I just said 50 gigawatts was a lot. I think it was only 25. That's big. That's
This is
big.
amazing. 10 times the size of the current largest solar tender in the world, which is also Indian. These tenders, by the way, are not to build 100 gigawatts of solar in one place.
No,
It's like
it's like
all
a requisition request for proposals.
yeah,
How much are you going to give us at what price?
and where?
And where? Yeah.
The 10 times the size of the current largest solar tender in the world, which is also Indian. These and other green power promises from Delhi have serious implications for the coal industry.
Duh.
100 gigawatts of solar power is like 20 gigawatts of nuclear.
Well, at the beginning of the decade, India planned to power its growth using entirely thermal coal.
Yeah.
With about 600 gigawatts, that's a big amount, of power plant projects in the pipeline in 2010.
Yes.
Okay, they're not there anymore. The price of
Yes.
renewables has crashed. The impact of fossil fuels on Indian air and water has become clearer. And the country has sought to reinvent itself as a green energy leader. And
Which
it's still money talking.
There are more
It's
people.
still money talking.
There are more people employed in green energy. Well, there's a multiple. The number of people employed in green energy in China is a multiple of the number in the United States. But there's more in green energy in Brazil than there is in the United States. And India is kind of on par with the United States. I forget whether it's ahead or behind, but it's close. And the way things are going in India right now,
They're going to exceed us.
the United States is losing
They're
jobs.
moving
in
from
this
the
industry.
15th century into the 22nd
Yeah.
century.
Okay, we've got to continue. We're
Well, a
up.
quick one from this
Oh,
article.
good. Okay.
Cost of solar and wind in India is now 50% cheaper than coal. So it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Monday, July 2nd. This is where we are, and we have an item from
This is a very interesting story.
CBC.ca.
There's a map of the city.
Yep.
Nobody has that much money, is the title. One sinking city's fight against rising sea levels.
Now, this is from
It's an interesting
CBC,
article.
which is a Canadian broadcasting company.
Yeah,
but
but it's
the
about
article is
California.
about Foster City, California. To address the threat of rising seas and subsiding land, during a recent primary elections, Foster City, California proposed a ballot measure, $90 million worth of property tax increases to fund raising the levees by 2.5 meters. Now, 2.5
That's
meters
about 10
is about,
feet.
It's close, yeah. Foster City residents voted yes by more than 80%. The levees should protect them for a little over 30 years. Now, what do they do after the 30 years? They're going to have to raise those levees.
Or leave.
And raising the levees 2.5 meters is probably going to cost 4 times as much as building the levees of 2.5 meters. Because you have the levees not only have to be 2.5 times as tall, but they have to be 2.5 times as wide.
Well, I never even heard of Foster City.
Yeah.
And I looked it up. It's a planned suburb of about 30,000 people built along a chain of canals and waterways south of San Francisco.
Yeah.
All on reclaimed land, by the way.
Yeah, on reclaimed land.
And what the people are saying, it's not if the water rises, it's when.
Well, yeah. And this is their own money they're putting into this. Thank you, Donald Trump. Our next item is from TNW.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means. Don't know what it means.
Tesla's next energy storage project in California could be its biggest yet. Well, it would be. It's going to be.
Yeah. Tesla teamed up with the Pacific Gas and Electric Company, one of the largest electric utilities in the United States, to produce a massive battery system with a capacity of up to 1.1 gigawatt hours.
Which is big for batteries. It's
big for batteries. The battery packs for this project will be provided by Tesla with an output capacity of 182.5 megawatts of power for 4 hours. PG&E can choose to increase the time to 6 hours. So the total would be 6.6 hours if they do that.
Well, there's a picture in that in this article of the massive battery system.
Yes.
It's massive.
Yeah.
It is big.
Yeah. But you know what's interesting about this, Tom? You think about solar power, sun isn't always shining. You think about wind power, wind isn't always blowing. This is what we've been hearing for years and years and years. And now they've got the batteries coming in, and people are saying, but the sun doesn't always shine. And it's like, I don't hear what you're saying about batteries. But an interesting thing about this is, if you look at nuclear power and coal power, they need battery backup. And they need massive battery backup.
Or some kind of backup.
Some kind of backup, which is why the Northfield Station plant just down the river was built, and this thing is 1.1 gigawatt hours.
Yeah.
I don't know what that station has. But it's a multiple of 1.1 gigawatt hours because its output is over a gigawatt hour. A gigawatt is over a gigawatt, and
you're talking about the pump storage.
Pump storage, yeah, absolutely. And that was built in 1973 to back up a nuclear power plant.
Yeah.
And people don't even think about that. It makes me
and we
mad.
haven't seen really the end of the story because we're talking about batteries.
Yes.
And as I've mentioned on a show in college, I don't think we even studied batteries.
Yes.
You know? And now we got new batteries coming around. What about the next generation?
I don't know.
You know, I read something just yesterday. They're talking a solid state battery. I can't even imagine what that is.
What is it? I don't know.
There's no liquid in it.
You know what it is? I suspect is a really advanced capacitor.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah. But the point of it is, there is people thinking about stuff that we can't even imagine.
You know, it's crazy. And yeah, absolutely.
And it's going to change a lot of things.
Yes, it will. And there's an economics law. We should actually do a show on Wright's law.
Yeah.
But it just says the prices of things are going to
You don't have your little computer, do you?
I don't. But not with me.
It's about half the size of a pack of cigarettes.
The smallest that I've got is like the size of it's like this big, and that thick, and it's a 32 byte system. It's got 32-bit registers. It's a 32-bit system that operates at 700 megahertz, and it's like so powerful compared to the computers that I had 15 years ago.
You can hold 3 of them in the palm of your hand.
$5. The computer costs $5. And one of the things that as I was doing some work on this, I thought, I want to look into Wright's law, this thing that says in Moore's law, Swanson's law, they're all part of the same thing. These prices keep going down. And I got to this article about gigaflops, flops, which is floating point operations per second. And the article in Wikipedia on flops says that in 1961, a gigaflops, a billion floating point operations per second, the hardware that you would need to do that would have cost $157 billion, as I recall. And it says that in 2017, the hardware to support a gigaflops would cost 3 cents. This is what's happening to prices. Okay, we've got a picture here of Aberdeen Bay. Remember Aberdeen Bay?
Well, we've talked about it. Yeah.
This thing is just giving me trouble. Okay.
That doesn't somehow look to me like Scotland, but I know that it is.
This is, yeah, I believe this, the thing.
No, it's a wind. It's not the, well, it is Aberdeen Bay, the picture. It's a wind farm off of Scotland.
This is from Renews.
Aberdeen Bay delivers first power.
Vattenfall has delivered power for the first time from the 93.2 megawatt Aberdeen Bay offshore wind farm. The project delivered electricity to the UK national grid on the 1st of July from the first 2 of the 11 MHI Vestas turbines to go live, according to the Swedish company. Aberdeen Bay will feature 2 8.8 megawatt machines. These are huge.
Big
and
machines.
9 8.4 units. And these, by the way, are the ones that Donald Trump objected to.
Yeah, because he could see them from
Because he could see them from his golf course. And he went to the Scottish Parliament and testified, saying that they were a disaster, and the Scottish Parliament basically said, "We don't believe you." Okay, we're up to Tuesday, July 3rd.
Battery-powered solar power to undercut coal in China by 2028.
There was an item in here that really caught my attention. Wind turbines and solar panels with batteries will be able to provide on-demand power cheaper than old coal plants in China by 2028, analysts at Bloomberg New Energy Finance predict. In the U.S., the combo can outcompete natural gas generation by 2027, according to the same New Energy Outlook report presented in London. Now, what they're saying is, power round the clock, solar plus batteries, wind plus batteries, both plus batteries, will be cheaper in the United States than power from natural gas within 9 years. And
using existing plants that they built 30 years ago.
Well, any plants.
Well, yeah. Built,
which means that if you're going to invest in a natural gas plant today, you're going to have to expect it to be obsolete in 10 years.
That's not good economics.
No, it's not good economics. Okay.
Well, this from the article is pretty good.
Yep.
Falling battery costs, which we've been talking about, will allow for renewable power to grow rapidly, replacing traditional baseload generation. Solar and wind energy is predicted to supply almost half of the world's electricity by 2050.
Yeah.
So it's coming.
Yeah.
There's a graph in this article of lithium battery prices. And I'll put myself up here.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
I'll put me up here.
I'm going to go to the next photograph.
This is what it looks like.
Yeah, except you got to be able to do that in reverse, Tom.
The battery prices are going down.
Yeah, I know, but the people who are seeing you are going to see.
It's still going.
Yeah, it's going that way, but they see it backwards.
They see it backwards from what I'm seeing. Huh?
Yeah, that's right.
How strange.
Look at. Okay.
Okay, well, we got another picture.
We have a picture
here
of Rhode Island, and this is from Inside Climate News.
Rhode Island sues oil companies over climate change, and it's the first state to do so.
Rhode Island became the first state to sue oil companies over the effects of climate change. It filed a complaint seeking damages for costs associated with protecting the state from rising seas and severe weather. The state's attorney general said Rhode Island would hold the companies accountable for harm they caused. And behind this is the fact that they know that the people in these companies knew about climate change, knew that it was going to cause trouble 40 years ago. And they didn't say anything.
That's known. We've got their papers. We got their documents.
Right.
They kept it under wraps.
Today in the news, I saw something that said by the year 2100, the cost of rising seas will reach $14 trillion per year.
Say that again?
The cost of rising seas worldwide.
Before that.
Worldwide by 2100.
By 2100.
So this is 83 years from now.
That's only a couple of years from now.
Yeah. By 2100, 82 years from now, the cost of rising seas, just the rising seas alone, will get to $14 trillion a year worldwide.
That's a lot of A lot of bread.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And a separate report said, oh, we're expecting, we did a new analysis, and we're expecting the sea rise to be twice as fast as anybody anticipated. So,
well, a quick background here, just in case you can't figure out what's going on.
yeah.
The lawsuit blames the burning of fossil fuels for contributing to sea level rise, extreme weather, and warming oceans.
Yes.
And the state is already seeing coastal damage.
Yes.
Okay, well, they don't call Rhode Island the ocean state for nothing.
I guess not.
Okay, Big Oil knew for decades, as you just said, that greenhouse gas pollution from their operations and their products were having a significant and detrimental effect or impact on the Earth's climate. Instead of working to reduce that harm, these companies chose to conceal the dangers, undermine public support for greenhouse gas regulation, and engage in massive campaigns to promote the ever-increasing use of their product.
In other words, they lied for money at somebody else's expense.
That's exactly what they did.
Okay, we are up to an item from Clean Technica, still July 3rd.
Washington State coal-fired plant converts a barren landscape into a solar farm. This is what I was mentioning earlier
Yes,
in
you
the
were.
show.
The TransAlta power plant contributes 10% of the total greenhouse gas emissions of Washington State. Its 3 units will shut down one at a time from 2020 to 2025. The plant's coal comes from a terraced, open-to-the-sky strip mine, and TransAlta will replace its generating capacity by repurposing 1,000 acres of the mine to a solar farm. What about that?
Makes sense to me.
Sure does.
It's all part of Washington State's larger plan to reduce carbon dioxide emissions to 1990 levels less than 2 years from now.
Okay, we're up to July 4th, Wednesday, and we've got an item from Renews and a picture.
Picture here.
And by golly, that picture went up without all funny things happening on the computer.
Before.
Yeah, we've seen, if
Something
not
very
that,
much
we've
like
seen
it.
one very like it. Okay,
What we're looking at is a platform that they use to install turbines,
yes,
and there's living quarters on that platform.
yes, and this was for a test turbine that was put up a couple of years ago off the coast of Cleveland.
Well, yeah, that's not the ocean we're looking at.
We're looking
You
at-
can see the buildings of Cleveland in the background.
Yeah.
That's Lake Erie.
Icebreaker receives green light. I'm doing your job for you.
I read this and I was thinking, that's not an icebreaker.
The Ohio Power Siting Board has given conditional approval to the 21 megawatt Icebreaker offshore wind farm on Lake Erie, according to local news reports. The wind farm will not be allowed to operate at night from the 1st of March till the 1st of January unless the developers have an adequate monitoring plan for birds and bats in place.
I'm sure they'll figure that one out.
Oh, they've already done it.
Have they?
They've got
Yeah.
radar that's so good you can actually track an individual bird.
Well, they're going to be putting them on there because it says it right here, bird
Yeah.
and bat collision detectors, which
Yes,
we're just
that's
talking
right.
about.
That's what they've
Will
got.
also need to be installed on the turbines.
Well, they need to have something that says if it hits a bird, that it records the fact that it's done that. So it's going to have impact detectors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, should we move on?
I think we should.
Okay.
They're always talking about these things being very detrimental to bats and birds.
Yes.
And the figures don't bear that out.
Well, not only that.
I think the bats and birds are smart enough to figure out what these things are.
Well, Tom, when I lived in New Hampshire,
Yeah.
just across the river, I can remember walking out of my grandmother's kitchen door and in New Hampshire and seeing 3 lines of telephone wire covered with swallows.
Yep,
Every single
yep.
one of the 3 covered with swallows resting
They ain't there anymore.
5 inches apart. 20 some odd years later, my daughter came running in the door and said, "Hey, Dad, you've got to come out and see these birds." The first line, empty. Second line, half full. Third line, empty. When I moved out of there weren't any swallows left.
Wow.
Now, what is that? That's an anecdotal piece of evidence.
Yeah.
It doesn't prove anything, but what it does is it fits with all the stuff that we've been hearing. The Royal Society for Protection of Birds said we've lost 70% of our seabird populations in 60 years. The World Wildlife Fund said that we lost 60% of our wildlife populations in 40 years. I mean, the wildlife in the worldwide, all kinds, with the exceptions of cockroaches and, you know, what have you, blue jays, and you know, there's species that are benefiting, but very, very few.
Well, how many times have you heard about tall buildings killing birds?
You don't hear about it a lot, but they do.
But it's happening. It's happening. I mean, New York City.
How much do you hear about nuclear power plants killing birds?
Don't hear much about that at all.
I did a thing to try to find out where did the
Why would that happen?
They fly into
the cooling towers. Oh, okay.
And at coal plants, they fly into the smokestacks.
And the cooling towers.
And the cooling towers, you know, and it's like, and they're much more destructive than wind turbines. Okay.
Well, we said something about that earlier on. It's new technology and it scares people.
Yeah. PV Magazine USA gave us our next item.
California, 100% renewable energy bill heads to assembly, so it's been half passed.
Yep. California took another step to mandate that utilities move toward sourcing 100% of their electricity from sources that do not emit CO2. On a 10-5 vote, the Assembly Utilities and Energy Committee approved SB 100. The bill now goes to the full Assembly, and I think it may have actually passed the full Assembly. And if approved, will go to Governor Jerry Brown, who expected to sign it. I saw something about this in the news today. It can't have.
You're ahead of us here.
Can't have gone to the full Assembly that quickly. I must have been seeing another reference to this same thing. It's to the Assembly. If the Assembly passes it, apparently it's already passed the Senate. It'll go to the governor, and he'll sign it.
Well, it's interesting. The article says that California became the second state to set a 100% mandate after Hawaii.
Yes.
What do you think is the next most ambitious policy? What state? It's Vermont.
Vermont's policy is falling by the wayside under the governor we've got.
For the time being.
For the time being. Okay.
Well, this is the last article.
This is from Clean Technica.
Michigan conservatives shocked to learn renewables could give the economy a $10 billion boost.
This is hysterical.
That's not supposed to happen.
This is hysterical. The Michigan Conservative Energy Forum commissioned a study of economic impacts of increased renewable energy in the state's economy. They were shocked to find that if renewable energy is increased to 30% by 2027, it will create more than 68,000 new jobs and have a gross economic impact on the state of over $10 billion.
Well, Flint's got poisonous water, but there's money to be made from renewables.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it, huh?
Who'd have thunk it? Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a happy week. Let's put this up. There we go.
You want to see that?
Yeah,
huh?
let's see
There
that. We don't put that up very often. Okay.
Put it
We
back.
need to wave and say goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
And we hope you come back next time.
See you next time.